What is up, guys? It's your boy Snackson here, and I don't have a food review today, but instead I'm going to be talking about something that I've been wanting to talk about for a while, and it is books. I read a lot of books. Now, my favorite book series that I've read so far is The Maze Runner. The Maze Runner has been my favorite series so far. There are 5 books in the series. There's The Maze Runner, there's The Scorch Trials, there's The Death Cure. I don't have the other 2. The last one's called The Fever Code. Give me a second to figure out what the other one is. So anyway, the Maze Runner series is about a boy named Thomas. And Thomas he wakes up in a box and he finds out that he only knows his name. So he wakes up thinking to himself, my name is Thomas, and that's all he really remembers. Can't figure out what the last book is called. Once I figure it out, I'm going to feel stupid. The Kill Order. Yes. Very, as you can tell, very, very, very lighthearted names. Because we even got, like, Maze Runner running. This is cool. Scorch Trials. Scorch is a pretty violent word, so I'm probably going to get demonetized for that. Not like my videos are monetized regardless. And then there's just death. And then there's the Kill Order and the Fever Code. So, Maze Runner starts off with this boy named Thomas. He wakes up in a box, and it's all dark, and he's freaking out because, it's a dark box. If I woke up in a dark box, I'd be pretty scared too, because I don't know what's going on, and I just know my name. If I just wake up and it's just like, all I know is that my name's Jackson, then I'm going to be a little bit freaked out. Arizona tea is pretty good. 5 out of 5. There's your food review. So, then a few hours later, or a little bit later, the box opens up and he finds that he's in this, beautiful place. Beautiful. There's grass, there's trees, there's buildings, and there's a bunch of boys. And there's one thing I know, is that if you put a lot of boys in an area, it doesn't make for good... Nothing good happens out of that. So he wakes up, he talks to these boys, and they kind of fill him in. They don't really tell him anything. They call him a green bean? They either call him a green bean, or a beanie, or a greenie. I think we call him a green bean. Frick. As you can see, I don't do scripts for these. I probably should, so that I have a general understanding for it. Anyway, I'm gonna go with greenie, as in green bean. So he's the greenie, which basically means the new kid. These kids have developed their own little language with slang terms, kind of like lit. And I just edited this video. So anyway, they came up with their own slang terms, like shuck it, it's exactly what it sounds like. It's like screw it, but not screw. There's some other words, but that's all you really need to know. They've just made their own little language and their slang and stuff. So anyway, spoiler alert, right now, I'm going to be spoiling the whole Maze Runner series in a few minutes. So, click off now, but first subscribe, or pause the video, go read The Maze Runner, then come back, and I can talk about it. So, again, Maze Runner, James Dashner. This book is not $10. Looking at it on Amazon, you can get it for $7.99. You can get the whole series for under $42. Wait, that's Kindle edition. Yeah, you can get the Maze Runner for $5.27 on Amazon within 38 hours and 5 minutes. So if you want it, get it now. It is currently 10:40 on March 16th. So buy the Maze Runner. Order it on Amazon. Get it. Read it. Come back to this video. All right. Incoming spoilers in 3, 2, 1. So the Maze Runner. Maze Runner, right here. Thomas asks all these questions like, what is the maze? Why are we here? And no one has an answer for him. They just know that there's this maze. They all woke up in the same area, same situation as Thomas. All they remembered was their name, and they were in a black box, or dark box, made of metal. And they know that once every month, there's a boy comes in, and he doesn't know anything. He just knows his name. And every week or so, I think, they get supplies and stuff from whoever put them in this place, which you do find out who put them in this place. I really like the Maze Runner. But, let's see here. The thing that I really like about the Maze Runner is Mr. Dashner. He leaves a lot of questions unanswered throughout the whole thing. Like, he always leaves you questioning, like, why are they here? Like, why? And who sent them here? A bunch of other questions that I always had reading the first book. And eventually, in the book, I'm all over the place. I'm sorry. So back to Thomas. Thomas, he gets to know these people, and he meets this kid named Chuck. Chuck is a very small boy, and he was the boy that came to the maze before Thomas. And as the day goes on, his first day winds down to a close, and the walls that lead into the maze, they have doors on them. The doors close. And he's like, what, why is this happening? And Chuck's like, oh, don't worry, it happens every day. They just close, and then in the morning they open up. And then Thomas sees the runners come back, the maze runners. Just close the book there. That's all I need to know. The maze runners come back, and Thomas is like, I want to be a runner. Let me be a runner. I want to be a runner. So eventually they let him be a runner after some other stuff happens where this kid gets stung by a griever. Grievers are these big metal slug things that have like blades and needles and they're deadly. Go look up an image because I'm not going to edit this too much. I'm just uploading it as it is. Yeah. So this kid gets stung by a griever, and he goes through what's called the grieving? I'm not going to look it up. Maybe it's called the grieving? He gets stung. He gets stung by a griever, and he goes mad. And then he comes to, and he looks at Thomas. He's like, I saw you. I saw you. And then people are like starting to not trust Thomas. And then Thomas gets taken to the kind of, not really elders, but the leaders of each sort of section area, of each sort of thing. Like the butcher, the farmhouse leader, the leader of the runners. Those kind of people. The Supreme Court, let's call them. Yeah, Supreme Court. And on the Supreme Court is his friend that helped him, that he first saw when he got out of the box, named Newt. Also in there is Albie, who is another friend, and he's a big boy. Minnow, I don't know if I'm saying that correctly. It's spelled M-I-N-H-O. I go with Minnow, or maybe it's Minho. Who cares? So eventually they decide that Thomas will just be put into their jail. It's just one cell in a house for a day until things start unless something, they lock him up to decide what to do with him further. And oh wait, no, it's not. They don't lock him up because of the. Okay, they do lock him up, but they're not because of some dude going mad and saying that he saw him because the griever stung him and they think he's evil. But he goes into this jail because he ran out into the maze before it closed, which is a big, big no-no, to save Minnow and Albie. Because Albie got stung by a griever. Albie's the one that said that he saw Thomas in his little fever dream. So Albie got stung. Minnow was trying to take him back, but the walls closed too soon, and Thomas slipped through. So Thomas saves Albie, saves Minnow, and he is the first person to survive in the maze at night, minus Minnow and Albie. But Thomas saved Albie by putting him in vines and taking him up out of the reach of a griever. I didn't say this book made a whole lot of sense. There's a lot of questions that remain unanswered until the very end, and I love that. So after they do that, they decide that Thomas should not be allowed to be walking around. And yeah, so they put him in jail after talking in front of the courthouse, and then Minnow wants to step down as the leader of the runners and give it to Thomas, even though he's never been a runner before. But Newt is like, we'll just put him in the jail so that everyone's happy, and we'll think about it later. So they put him in the jail. Day passes, comes to, and then there's this girl that comes out of the little hatch thing, and the girl is unconscious, and it just says she just has a message, and it says the end is coming, something really cryptic like that. So cryptic note on a random girl. Yeah. Fast forward a bit because the rest of it is just like them figuring out stuff. Thomas gets stung by a griever, and then he goes mad like everyone else, and then yeah. Eventually, the walls stop closing, and the grievers invade on the Gale. Or is it called the Gale? We're going to call it the Gale. They start invading on the Gale. So, Thomas and this girl who came too, named Teresa, they can communicate with their minds. Crazy, I know. But they can communicate with their minds. And eventually, they figure out that the maze is a puzzle. Meant for the it's called the Gladers. For the Gladers to figure out. So the runners have been like charting down these mazes, right? Each day the mazes change. So they chart down the mazes, and every month they repeat the same pattern. So they figure out that there's like a message going on there. They figure out to find some words. And then they realize, then they go do some more exploring by the cliff, which is just this, it's exactly what it sounds like. It's a cliff, they can't see the bottom of it, but it's where the grievers come from. So Minnow and Thomas start throwing rocks. And eventually, one of the rocks hits the bottom, but they don't see it hit the bottom. So then they realize that's where the griever's coming from, and where the grievers come from must be where they can escape. So eventually they escape the maze. Everyone. There's a huge battle right before they escape into the griever hole, and many of the Gladers die. No one really important dies, except, yeah, no one really important dies in that, but Albie dies a little bit beforehand, which is kind of disappointing, but I didn't really get attached to him, so I wasn't really sad about that, but I mean, Thomas was, I guess. So they escape into the griever hole, and then Thomas, Teresa, and Chuck, they shut down all the grievers, and all the rest of the boys are able to escape down this ladder, and they wind up in this laboratory. And in this laboratory, they find this big mean boy named Gally. Gally was a bully to Thomas ever since he came into the glade, and he's holding a knife. He throws the knife at Thomas, and then Chuck, little boy Chuck, gets in front of the knife and takes it for Thomas. Chuck dies by Gally's hand, and Thomas is obviously really sad about that. But then these scientists come in and they say that they are wicked, which is alluded to a little bit in here, and that the maze is one of the experiments that they have to save humanity. Everyone here is confused. I was confused when I read it. And then these like people in these armed military people come into the lab and kill the scientists, save the Gladers, put them on a bus, and then they explain that that they're actually wicked, and those are imposters trying to take their data, I think. Yeah. So they get on this bus, and they try and get some more information out of these people. There's this woman that Thomas is sitting next to and asks, what is going on? And the woman says that there are these people who are taken over by this disease called the flare, and the flare makes these people into cranks. The flare basically eats at people's minds and makes them go crazy. and basically shuts off their common sense and reasoning and conscience, making them just these primal beasts that just kill and destroy and are in to try and get over the pain. Yeah, so fun, right? So the bus driver takes them to this safe house, I guess. And in the safe house, they let them all out. They let the Gladers into the safe house, and they basically say, get ready for phase 2. That's basically where the first book ends off. Now, I'm not going to go through the whole Maze Runner series, the whole Maze Runner series today in this video, because that would take over an hour, and I don't want to do that. I want to get this video out as soon as possible. So yeah, Snackson reviews here. Subscribe, like, leave a comment as to what I can improve upon and what I should review next. But your food review for today, Arizona green tea with ginseng and honey. It's pretty sweet. Tastes like tea. Bought a gallon. It's really cheap. It's less than $3. Less than $3. It was like $2.98 at Walmart for a gallon. That was a good deal. I'm gonna be drinking this throughout the whole food Maze Runner review. Yeah. So again, Maze Runner, James Dashner. Go read it. It's a good book. And go read the Scorched. After reading the Maze Runner, go read the Scorched Trials, which is the second book in the series, which takes place after the Maze Runner. Don't watch the movies. I haven't watched the movies. I've heard the movies are bad. Read the book. So yeah, this is Snackson signing out. All right.